So crazy, man, because as you decide to step vulnerably into something, which is probably the scariest thing, to be vulnerable for other people and to be courageous, it's like you give permission for other people to also share the thing that they're most afraid of.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting because even though you're sitting there and you're wondering like, will people still love me? Then you open up, they then open up, and now you have an even tighter bond than you've ever had and felt more love you've ever had in your life.
Yes.
I'm curious with that, because one thing I told you I really want to talk to you a little bit about is like just relationships in general, because there's been, since I've known you over the past few years, since the first episode we did, we spent a lot of time talking about relationships and stuff like that after the episode, and your life has changed immensely over the past 3 years in relationships.
Yep.
I'm curious, do you feel like after this happened, you started to change in relationships, or was that just a completely different journey for you?
After
opening up.
After opening up, yeah. Everything started to shift in relationships after opening up. Now, I still had 3 failed relationships. I'm a slow learner sometimes.
Not failures. You know, they built you to where
three
you are now.
relationships that taught me a lot.
There you go. Yeah.
And that didn't work out, but it ended up working out.
Mm-hmm.
I still had a lot of fear around intimacy in relationships. Although I started healing that element and I started closing the loop around that, I thought, oh, I'm good. I was like, oh, this is the thing I'm most afraid of. I'm good. And so I spent a number of years learning and constantly growing, but I still hadn't healed my nervous system around intimacy and around boundaries and around people pleasing in love. So I started to, let go of some of that old wound and trauma. I started to build more confidence in myself. I started to drop the walls of anger and resentment and things like this.
Like you feel like your energy is way lighter, and I think it is a lot of us, what we do is we think, all right, well, yeah, like shit's happening at home, but I can put on a face and I can go out and do my work and do what's supposed to be done. And I think that we don't understand that people are always feeling our energy in some sort. So if you just had a fight and now you got to go on stage or you've got to go and talk with someone, they're feeling something's a little bit off in your nervous system. They might not have any idea what it is, but they feel in their nervous system something's a little bit different.
Exactly.
And I told you when I was at your event up in Columbus, where I was like, man, like you just feel different to be around. Like it seemed like it was taking a lot from you. The previous relationships were. And it's awesome to see because you guys just got engaged right a couple days right after that.
Yep.
And so I'm curious. I have a question for you. I'm curious on because I know my answer with my relationship with Lauren, my wife, but it feels like a lot of people talk about relationships have to be hard, they have to be work, they have to be strenuous. I'm curious your thoughts on that, and if you think that it's true, or if you're finding that it's false with the one that you have.
Well, I feel like all of my relationships were hard work and they were exhausting.
Yeah.
Now, there were moments in the first 3 months that were fun and interesting and exciting, but then it started to get more tiring and exhausting. And it was always like, how do we get back to that beginning few months of fun and excitement? Like, how do we get back to that? We never did.
Right.
And here's the thing, I'm not a parent. So I know there's going to be a lot of parents in the comments right now that say, well, wait till you have kids and wait till this and wait till life happens in bigger ways and wait till you got to take care of your parents and wait till death happens and all these things, then your relationship is tested, right? So I understand and have compassion for that because I don't have kids.
I had a friend who I had met through a poker tournament, sat next to me, and he was a relationship therapist, and we started connecting stuff. He's like, hey, it'd be great for you and your girlfriend to come in. And it was like 2 years into our relationship, and there was nothing wrong, right? It wasn't like we were trying to fix something, but we went in and we spoke with him, and we learned about like how I am. He had said something to me that was really eye-opening that I never thought of before. And I was talking to him about, my relationship with my father and where my father was, and he goes, yeah, you were neglected as a child. And I was like, no. Like I wasn't neglected. Like, cause in my mind, I'm thinking like food, water, shelter, clothing, right?
Emotionally, you were neglected.
That's exactly what he said. He said, you were emotionally neglected. And I was like, oh God, that feels true. Like I felt it. And I was like, oh yeah, there was emotional neglect there. And so he reflected to me something I never knew, but I started learning like how Lauren's love style was, how my love style was. And I left that first session, and we had gone a couple of times to him after that, feeling like, number one, I understood myself more than I ever had, but I also understood her more than I ever had. But I felt like she understood me more than she ever had.
Wow.
And I think that that's important, where it's like, a lot of times I have a friend who really wants to go to therapy with his parents, and they just don't. His dad's hardcore resisting it, because in his dad's mind, he thinks that means he failed, like he did something wrong. And in reality, it doesn't have to be that way. Just because you go to therapy doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means, hey, I kind of want a mirror. I want to have someone tell me something about myself that I might not know about. Like I've been at that point in time, personal development for like 12 years, and I had no idea I was emotionally neglected.
Wow.
And then I started realizing that about myself. And so I think it's really important for everyone out there to think about this. Like, if you can do it, if you can afford it in some sort of way, it would be really good for you to go and talk with someone on your own, but also talk with someone who is, if you're in a relationship with someone, where you could start to understand each other a little bit better.
Yeah. And to go back to the question of, do relationships need to be hard? I think relationships are extremely hard if you're unwilling to have courageous conversations. And they are going to be hard, and they're going to be exhausting, because you're going to expect someone else to understand you when you're not communicating with courage to them about your needs, your wants, and desires.
For sure.
You're expecting them to just get it, to understand you, to just know what you want, as opposed to saying, actually, I'm feeling a little scared here, I've got some stuff I'm still working on. I want to talk through it with you. And most of us are unwilling to have the courage to open up. And therefore, we're resentful, we're angry, we're frustrated, we're insecure, we're needy, all these different things. And so it feels hard and complicated. But if you're willing to start opening up courageously and make sure the other person is willing to receive that, if they're not, they may not be the right match for you.
Sure.